General Hospital spoilers. Tracy brings Ronnie to tears. Will she lose her family's support? For decades, General Hospital has proven that when it comes to family, love, and betrayal, no one does high-stakes drama quite like the Quartermaines. Now, the legendary Tracy Quartermaine is once again at the center of a storm. Fierce, unapologetic, and never one to bite her tongue, Tracy has ruled her household with an iron will. But the latest spoilers suggest that her signature tough-love approach may backfire spectacularly, leaving Ronnie, a rising new character entangled in the family's orbit, in tears, and putting Tracy at risk of losing the very thing she has always clung to the most, her family's loyalty. This creative spoiler dive will explore the emotional fallout of Tracy's words, Ronnie's complicated ties to the Quartermaines, and whether this storyline could shift the family dynamic forever. Tracy Quartermaine has always thrived on control. Since her recent return to Port Charles, she has inserted herself into ELQ affairs, family disputes, and even personal relationships that arguably weren't hers to meddle in. Tracy has long prided herself on being a protector of the Quartermaine name, but her style of protection has never been gentle. Her sharp words are weapons, her silence is a warning, and her approval, rare as it is, can feel like winning the lottery. For many, Tracy's presence is both a blessing and a curse. But this time, it isn't Ned, Brooke Lynn, or Michael at the receiving end of her wrath. It's Ronnie, a newcomer to the GH canvas whose budding connection to the Quartermaines has intrigued fans and unsettled the matriarch. Ronnie's introduction to General Hospital has been slow burn but deliberate. A young man with a troubled past, he has worked tirelessly to prove himself in Port Charles. He's been drawn into ELQ through a side project tied to the company's outreach initiatives and has found surprising common ground with Brooke Lynn, who has become one of his strongest supporters. Hints about Ronnie's backstory suggest he grew up without stability, often having to fight for everything he had. That raw vulnerability has made him relatable to some characters and suspicious to others. To Tracy, however, Ronnie represents an unvetted risk, a wild card who could bring scandal, weakness, or, worse, betrayal to the Quartermaine name. What Tracy fails to see is that Ronnie has already found a surrogate family in the Quartermaines. He admires Ned's leadership, is grateful for Brooke Lynn's belief in him, and respects Monica's compassion. For the first time in his life, he feels like he belongs. Which is why Tracy's next move devastates him. In an upcoming episode, spoilers tease a heated Quartermaine family gathering where Tracy corners Ronnie. What begins as a casual dinner spirals into a tense showdown. Tracy, never one to mince words, lays into Ronnie with accusations that cut deeper than any business critique. "You'll never be one of us," Tracy reportedly tells him in a moment of ruthless candor. "The Quartermaines have survived liars, cheaters, and criminals, but we don't hand over our legacy to strays who show up at the door hoping for scraps." The words hit like daggers. For a man who has spent his entire life searching for acceptance, Tracy's blunt rejection tears open old wounds. Ronnie, unable to mask his pain, is said to leave the room in tears, shocking the family with his raw vulnerability. Tracy has never been afraid to speak her truth, but this time, the fallout may be greater than she anticipated. The spoilers indicate that her brutal honesty divides the family right down the middle. Brooke Lynn is reportedly livid. Having defended Ronnie from day one, she lashes out at her grandmother for humiliating someone she cares about. Their bond, already fragile, faces new cracks that could lead to lasting estrangement. Ned finds himself in an impossible position. He has always tried to balance respect for his mother with doing what's right. Tracy's words force him to reevaluate whether loyalty to her is worth sacrificing compassion. Monica, the heart of the Quartermaine family, sees Ronnie's tears as a call to action. Monica has always been the one to welcome outsiders, from Emily to Jason to Drew, and she refuses to let Tracy push Ronnie away. Michael watches from the sidelines, quietly calculating. For him, Tracy's behavior reinforces his belief that the Quartermaines will always tear themselves apart before uniting. The family's reaction highlights an important truth. Tracy may have power, but power is meaningless without support. After fleeing the Quartermaine mansion, Ronnie reportedly has an emotional breakdown. Alone in his small apartment, he revisits the demons of his past. Memories of abandonment, ridicule, and rejection haunt him, and for a moment, he considers walking away from Port Charles altogether. But Ronnie is not without allies. Spoilers suggest Brooke Lynn arrives at his door, determined to remind him that one person's cruelty does not define his worth. Their emotional exchange is expected to be one of the most heartfelt scenes of the week, cementing their growing bond. In Ronnie's pain lies a turning point. He must decide whether Tracy's words will break him, or fuel him to prove her wrong. Of course, Tracy never admits fault easily. In the aftermath, she tries to justify her behavior by insisting she was protecting the family. She tells Ned and Monica that Ronnie is too much of a risk, that she's seen his type before, and that sentimentality has no place in protecting ELQ. Her words echo her lifelong philosophy: the Quatermains cannot afford weakness. Yet beneath her icy exterior, spoilers tease that Tracy may not be as indifferent as she appears. Alone in her room, she reportedly replays Ronnie's reaction in her mind. For perhaps the first time, guilt begins to creep in. The central question is whether this time, Tracy has gone too far. While her barbs have hurt people before, there's something different about attacking Ronnie. Unlike other Quatermains, he doesn't have wealth, power, or history to shield him. He is raw, vulnerable, and, in many ways, represents the very humanity the family so often tries to suppress. If Tracy refuses to soften, she risks alienating Brooklyn permanently and straining her relationship with Ned beyond repair. Worse, she could find herself isolated in the very home she fought so hard to dominate. This storyline sets the stage for several potential long-term arcs. Ronnie's redemption arc. Tracy's rejection could inspire Ronnie to rise stronger, eventually proving himself not only as an asset to ELQ but also as a cornerstone of the Quatermain family. His journey from outsider to insider would echo beloved GH stories of the past. Ronnie versus Tracy rivalry. Instead of retreating, Ronnie may channel his pain into defiance, becoming a thorn in Tracy's side. Their rivalry could fuel months of conflict, with family members forced to choose sides. Brooklyn and Ronnie's love story. This ordeal could solidify Brooklyn and Ronnie as GH's next hot couple. Nothing bonds two characters like surviving Tracy's wrath, and their romance could become a centerpiece of future Quatermain drama. Tracy's downfall. If Tracy pushes too hard, she could alienate her family to the point where her power base collapses. Watching her face consequences after decades of domineering could be a storyline fans never expected. The spoilers already have GH fans buzzing, and it's easy to see why. Tracy is one of soap opera's most iconic matriarchs, but her cruelty toward Ronnie hits differently. In a world where acceptance and found families are central themes, seeing an outsider rejected so harshly resonates deeply. Some fans argue that Tracy is simply being Tracy, a woman who never apologizes for her strength. Others believe this storyline could finally force her to confront the loneliness that often follows power without compassion. As for Ronnie, viewers are rooting for him to rise above. His tears are not weakness but proof of his humanity in a world where Quatermain pride often masks vulnerability. The question remains, will Tracy Quatermain lose her family's support by bringing Ronnie to tears? If history is any guide, she will fight tooth and nail to maintain control. But this time, the stakes are personal, not just financial. Ronnie's presence forces the Quatermains to examine what truly makes a family: blood, legacy, or love. Whether Ronnie becomes the newest Quatermain success story or a tragic casualty of Tracy's sharp tongue, one thing is clear. This storyline is poised to deliver the kind of emotional, character-driven drama that keeps General Hospital at the top of its game.